I don't see that happening. I think that the Eagles will lose at least 1 or 2 more games. I think that they will struggle. The best they can hope for is an 8-8 season. They will not make the playoffs, and the star on Chip Kelly, that halo hovering over him will be omitted. It will be removed. Yep. Chip Kelly's days, to me, are probably numbered, but more so because he has the choice and will choose to leave rather than put up with the vitriol coming his way. Mm-hmm. It's not like Jeffrey Lurie would just fire him and push him out the door, even though I'm not ruling that out, but I consider that highly unlikely. I think this is the end of Chip Kelly, but I think it's because he's going to pursue other opportunities because Philadelphia is going to make sure he's not a very happy man.
Yep, I hear you. Before I respond to everything you just said, much of which I loved, allow me to give some credit to Tampa because, listen, Jameis Winston is getting a hold of how to play star quarterback in the National Football League. Over the last 6 games, he's just had 2 interceptions, both coming last week against Dallas, a game they won. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at his QBR over the last 6 games in which he's cleaned up that. It's a 74. Remember that scale, 0 to 100. Yep. That's 9 touchdowns to only 2 picks in the last 6 games by Jameis Winston.
And 5 games, no turnovers.
5 no turnovers. And 5 touchdown passes, all in the red zone. And you say, well, they're short touchdown passes. They're hard touchdown passes for a rookie. I got to tell you, the defense is pushed together. It's just you don't have much room to operate. Mm-hmm. And for you to go 5 with no interceptions at Philly, it's impressive. And I remind you, Philly scored first in this game. Yes. Sanchez hit Josh Huff, 39 yards for a touchdown?
Yep.
It's 7-0 Eagles. Who could have known at that moment it was going to end up 45-17? Are you kidding me?
Because before Sanchez became the accident waiting to happen.
The ultimate accident waiting to happen. Sanchez has 3 interceptions, 1 pick 6.
That's right.
They lose another fumble. DeMarco lost a fumble. By the way, DeMarco got to go solo yesterday at running back, and he had 13 carries for 64 yards. I know they fell behind, so it took him somewhat out of the game.
Yep.
But he's not a difference maker in this offense for this team. We're far enough into the season to conclude that they paid him to get him out of Dallas as opposed to what he could do for Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. It was more the money was to get him away, and he just doesn't fit. I don't like him in their offense. I think he's lost a lot of heart in their offense. Okay, so now back to the question about Chip Kelly. To me, this was from the start Chip Kelly's team. Am I right? He was the de facto GM, as you say.
Yeah.
So he picked the players. He ran off anyone who dared to question him, a lot of them stars with star capability, and now it's his mess. To me, he wanted to be the star of the show, so now he has to take all the responsibility, if not most of it, for 4 and 6. And I'm looking down the schedule. I got to tell you, they have to go to Detroit, and all of a sudden Detroit's starting to play like the team that barely lost the playoff game in Dallas last year. Am I right about that?
Yep.
Resurgent. They've won a couple games, 3 out of 5, but they're starting to look like
a respectable football team.
Like a respectable. So on Thanksgiving, when they can be pretty tough at home, you sure the Eagles going to win that one? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
I'm really not sure. Then the Eagles have to go to the Patriots. I'm really not sure about that. Then they get the Bills at home. I'm not sure about that. Arizona at home. I'm really not sure about that. They get Washington. Maybe they can win that one at home. And then they finish at your Giants.
Tough schedule.
Okay, that's tough. I could see, especially if they lose all faith in the head coach, if they effectively just lose heart for the rest of the year, I could see 5 out of 6 losses. I could see 5-11. Woo. That would be the end of Chip Kelly.
Let me tell you what I think. You didn't miss it. You alluded to it, but you didn't go in.
Mm-hmm.
Skip, a legitimate argument could be made that this team has given up on him. When you see their effort, to their credit, they're categorically denying it. When you read the Philly newspapers and stuff like that, they're saying, no, it's not true, it's not true. But you got guys like Josh Huff saying, I can only speak for myself. You got DeMarco Murray, he can't be found in a post-game for an interview, after they lose in the fashion that they lose in. Usually when that happens, you got to remember, DeMarco Murray averaged nearly 5 yards a carry. Now, obviously, you look at it, there's nothing spectacular about that performance.
But one run was 16 yards,
One was 16 yards.
Right.
Well, the reason I bring that up is because you can usually, when you know it's not you,
you
usually could stand there and answer questions.
That's probably true.
When you don't stand there and answer questions and you know that it's not you, it's usually because you want to avoid saying something that's going to get you in trouble. And that's what I think is going on with a lot of players on this team right now. We saw Sanchez arguing with Darren Sproles after a play that ended in an interception. You're Mark Sanchez, and you got the audacity to mitigate a goal to sit there and think you can argue with Darren Sproles. Who the hell do you think you are? I mean, Mark Sanchez is an unproductive, butt-fumbling self. I mean, please, be quiet.
True.
I mean, just zip it. Oh, stop. But what I'm saying is this. In the end, what it comes down to is we have to look at the Philadelphia Eagles, Skip, and just acknowledge that there are players looking like they gave up. Now, if they fight and they end up going 9-7 or 8-8, who knows? But right now, it looks like there are guys who either aren't good enough or guys surrounding those guys who aren't good enough that are demoralized, not only because of the lack of talent that they have, but also because they know they know whose fault it is.
Yep.
It's a guy in Chip Kelly.
That's right.
That came to them and said, bump your talent. Don't mean anything to me. What matters to me is my system, my philosophy, and you either buy all in or you're going to be out of here. And for those that sit up there and will say, Skip Bayless, Stephen A., you're trying to stir the cup, start trouble. Keep this in mind. There are 32 jobs in the NFL. Guys they got to play somewhere. Of course, you'll get guys to go and play for you because they got to take the best opportunities available to them because there's only 32 teams in the NFL. But talk to any of these guys covering the league. They will tell you that this kind of stuff going on in Philadelphia, they haven't seen this. I mean, these players, I'm telling you, me working in Philly for 17 years, I'm not asking you. I'm telling you, there's a whole bunch of dudes in that locker room who do not like Chip Kelly. I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah, okay. And you know how Eagles fans are. The sky is going to fall on this team this week, right?
That's right.
45-17. And when I thought Chip Kelly had gone out of his way to shore up the defense, it looked much better than it did last year going into this year. Early this year, I saw flashes. And yesterday, you let a rookie quarterback in your house convert 9 of his first 12 third downs. 9 out of 12 was Jameis on his first 12 third downs. That's just embarrassing, man. He ran you off your home turf. Yes. You don't think, they're going to be screaming.
And got to remember, your secondary's getting shredded, and you got Barron Maxwell you gave $40 million to. You got the quarterback spot. You paid an extra $12 million. You got to remember, you paid an extra $12 million to have Sam Bradford instead of Nick Foles. You paid an extra $12 million to do that. And so when you look at it from that perspective, and then you see the way Deshaun Jackson, Shady McCoy, you need him to be elusive. You need somebody that can juke you like that. Shady McCoy was an asset. He is not going, and this is what Philadelphia is a great, phenomenal sports town. They know their football. Here's their problem. They know that LaShawn McCoy is gone for something other than football. They know it. And they're like, why is he gone? That's the problem here.
The Broncos win in Chicago minus Peyton Manning in a more under-center offense. Quite a 25th birthday present for Brock Osweiler, who made his first NFL start and got the victory. He had 2 TDs, no interceptions, a 2-point road victory. No Peyton, no problem, it appears. Skip, how will this quarterback situation play out?
You know what, Molly, Stephen A.? This is starting to smell to me like the end of Peyton in Indy. The sad, sorry end of Peyton in Indy when he was eased, if not shoved, out the back door because Andrew Luck was there as both the present and the future. And again, it's starting to feel like this franchise is caught up in making Brock Osweiler not only its future, but its present now. And if that's true, if I'm reading this correctly, they are making a dangerous mistake. They are dangerously overreacting because I think they're reading way too much they're reading way too much into what Brock Osweiler did in Chicago yesterday. I admire the kid for making no turnovers, no interceptions, no fumbles. He did throw 2 touchdown passes, though one of them to Demaryius, the first one, 48 yards.
He made that.
I don't even know what happened. It's like Chicago just forgot to cover. Wait, Demaryius, that's the guy you probably should cover. If of all their receivers, I would cover that guy first with 2 people. And he runs a crossing route, and he's like, oh, well, I guess if nobody's going to cover me or tackle me, I guess maybe I should just keep going. And he did 48 yards for a touchdown. So I'm looking at Brock Osweiler after the game, and he acted like he had just won a playoff game. And I know he's excited. And again, it's hard. I didn't hear the whole interview. I just heard snippets. So maybe I'm being unfair to young Brock. But even though he said I'm paraphrasing his quote, every minute behind Peyton, I was preparing for my chance. It didn't come across that he was paying that much respect to the great, all-time great Peyton Manning. It felt like he was pretty caught up in, I just won my first game, and I'm going to be the quarterback of the Broncos now. Bring on Tom Brady in Denver. You know what? I did pick Jay Cutler in this game. I did not know he was going to be without Alshon Jeffrey. I knew he was going to be without Matt Forte. I was not sure about Eddie Royal. None of those three played for Jay Cutler. And you realize, Brock Osweiler, John Elway, this came down to Jay Cutler driving his team down for a touchdown, putting them in position to go for 2 to tie the game at 17 near the end of the game. And for reasons I don't know, they took the game out of Jay Cutler's hands, which I would not have done at that point, and they ran basically the same play that they had just scored on, if we could see that. And it got stuffed at the line of scrimmage, so that's how close the Denver Broncos with Brock Osweiler came to at least going to overtime in Chicago. So let's not get too carried away about beating the Bears without Alshon, Forte, and Eddie Royal, three of the best weapons that Jay Cutler has, obviously. So in the end, I admire what the kid did. We know their defense is a stud defense, one of the top 3 in the league, and it came to play yesterday and did a pretty good job on my guy Jay Cutler. I don't think he ever got rattled. He threw for 265 yards, which is pretty decent against that defense. But in the end, this team is going nowhere this year, without Peyton Manning. And I'm going to say what I said last week. This is just my view from a distance. If, in fact, they have shelved Peyton Manning for the rest of this year, whether for performance or for injuries, and he seems to have 3 of them he's battling right now, if he doesn't get to finish this year, I believe he will play another year, and I believe, if necessary, that year will be someplace besides Denver, because that's the way Peyton is built. And it might be at this point starting to be out of spite as much as out of desire, because that's what happened with Indy.
You know, it's interesting that you use that analogy when you talked about them trying to ease Peyton Manning out the door, because I really didn't think about that, but you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. This smells a lot like him going out of Indy. He was injured, had the surgeries. They knew they had the number 1 overall pick, and they wanted to move him out the door.
And remember, their doctors indicated to Jim Irsay that he wasn't going to be able to play at all anymore. So that was how they viewed it.
Right, but I think that's where I was going, because I think the difference that we have to highlight is that they were pushing him out the door not only because they weren't sure as to whether or not he was going to be able to play, but also because they had the number 1 overall pick, and they knew it was going to be Andrew Luck, and that's why they were willing to make that move. In this particular instance, you got a guy in Brock Osweiler. You're like, he's no Andrew Luck, in terms of projection or anything like that.
I don't know. Maybe they think he is.
Maybe they think he is.
6 feet, 8 inches
that would be news to us, because that's not the impression that we've gotten. He's been on the bench. He's been waiting his turn. And there's nothing wrong with that, because we see that it worked for Aaron Rodgers. But in the end, what it comes down to is that when I look at his performance, 20 of 27, 250 yards, no interceptions whatsoever, 2 TDs, a 127 quarterback rating, I'll give him props where it's due. My belief, however, is this team was built to try and win the Super Bowl now. And there's no way in hell you can convince me that it's going to happen. Like, for example, and I was thinking about this, and I was just looking it up, Skip. When I think about things like this, a scenario similar to Peyton Manning, I think about Dan Marino.
Yep.
What I think about Dan Marino is this. Dan Marino comes into the league. It's 1983. Yep. He's a first rounder. What happened? Skip Bayless. They're going in there. They're 5-2. But they still hand the reins to Dan Marino. He goes 7-2 in the last 9 games as a starter. He's the heir apparent. He's the new dude on the block because he throws 20 touchdowns with just 6 interceptions his first year. The second year, they go 14-2 and go to the Super Bowl. They just ran into the 15-1 San Francisco 49ers led by Joe Montana. Enough said. I'm pointing all of that out to say this. When I look at Brock Osweiler, I could see this guy making some noise. I could see him potentially doing some things. But what does it matter if Tom Brady's standing in his way? You have got to give yourself the best chance to pull that off. And I don't care how good Brock Osweiler looks. You